My wife started buying new lingerie that I had never seen her wear, and it made me wonder. But we'll come back to that. Let me tell you how it all began. It was an ordinary Thursday. I returned from the beach earlier than usual. A storm was approaching San Antonio, and all the lifeguard towers closed early. My job as a beach lifeguard gave me a good schedule, but that day marked the beginning of the end. My name was Edward, my wife's name was Pamela. 9 years of marriage, 2 children, Liam, 5 years old, and Sophie, 3 years old. We seemed to have everything for happiness. Our 2-bedroom apartment in the neighborhood near the bay was cozy, though not luxurious. My salary provided us with middle-class stability, and Pamela worked part-time as a Pilates instructor at the local fitness center 3 times a week. Everything started about 3 months ago. Pamela became different. Not in her clothes or makeup. No, that would have been too obvious. She started ordering some special creams online, signed up for procedures at a cosmetologist that she previously said were a waste of money. She bought a sauna membership, although she always complained that high temperatures didn't suit her. "I just want to take better care of myself," she would answer when I asked questions. The strangest thing was that she became more tender with me. She kissed more often, hugged, asked about my day. At first I liked it. I thought we were experiencing a second youth in our marriage. What a fool I was. The turning point came when I saw a new meditation app on her phone. Pamela was never interested in such things. She was a practical woman. Pilates, kids, cooking dinner. Meditation? That wasn't her. One evening when the kids were asleep, I sat in the living room and couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I started analyzing the details of the past months. Pamela's new habits, her sudden interest in self-development, those evenings when she went to the sauna for 2 hours. Who goes to a sauna for 2 hours? I didn't want to check her phone. It seemed like a violation of trust. But trust was already cracking at the seams even if I didn't admit it. Instead, I called my friend Marcus. We worked together as lifeguards 5 years ago, before he went into private security. Marcus had experience in surveillance and I knew I could trust him. "Listen, this might just be my paranoia," I told him on the phone. "But I need to know for sure." Marcus agreed to help. The following Tuesday, when Pamela said she was going to the sauna after her training shift, Marcus was waiting near the fitness center in his car. The result came faster than I expected. Marcus texted me half an hour later, "She really went to the sauna. But not alone. With some guy. They arrived separately but met at the entrance. It looks like they know each other well." I froze. The kids were playing in their room, suspecting nothing, and I sat in the kitchen staring at my phone, not believing what I read. "Keep watching," I replied. Marcus sent a photo. The man looked about 30 years old, athletic build, with long hair tied in a ponytail. Something about him was relaxed. Too relaxed. The next 2 weeks were hell. I continued living my normal life, pretending I knew nothing. Pamela kissed me in the morning, cooked dinners, played with the kids. And I knew that somewhere in this city there was a man touching my wife in ways I didn't even want to imagine. Marcus gathered evidence. Pamela met with this man weekly, sometimes twice. Always at the sauna. They spent hours there. Once Marcus saw them sitting in a car in the parking lot, and Pamela was crying while that guy hugged her. Crying. She was crying in his arms. I hired Marcus to conduct a more detailed investigation. It turned out this guy's name was Tom. He worked as a massage therapist at a spa salon near the sauna. 32 years old, unmarried, no previous serious relationships that could be tracked through social media. And then Marcus found the worst thing. Pamela had a Tinder profile. An active profile. I asked Marcus to show it to me. In the photos was my wife, smiling, looking happy, carefree. The description said, "Looking for something real." Something real. 9 years of marriage, 2 children, and this wasn't real? I decided to play it smart. No scenes, no shouting. I started preparing. I wrote down all the facts, collected all the evidence Marcus provided. Made copies of financial documents. Consulted with a lawyer quietly, saying nothing to Pamela. But life has always had its own plans. A month after I learned about the betrayal, Pamela came home pale. She sat down at the kitchen table and was silent for several minutes. I was cooking dinner for the kids and pretended not to notice anything. "Edward," she finally said. "We need to talk." I felt my stomach tighten. "About what?" She was staring at the table. "I'm pregnant." Time stopped. The kids were laughing in another room. It smelled like fried chicken. Everything was so normal and at the same time so destroyed. "That's wonderful," I said calmly, continuing to chop vegetables. "When did you find out?" "Today. Took a test." I turned to her. She still wasn't looking at me. And at that moment I saw something in her eyes that confirmed everything. Fear. She was afraid. Pamela, I said quietly. Whose child is it? She raised her head sharply, eyes wide open. What? What do you mean? Answer the question. The next few minutes were a blurred spot of screams, tears, and accusations. The kids ran into the kitchen, frightened, and I forced myself to calm down, sent them to watch cartoons. When we were alone, Pamela broke down. She told everything. How she met Tom through Tinder 8 months ago. How at first it was just messaging, then coffee, then more. How he gave her massages after her workouts, how they started meeting at the sauna where no one knew them. How she felt alive for the first time in years. I didn't plan this, she cried. What did you plan? I asked coldly. How much longer would this have gone on? She couldn't answer. As for the child, she wasn't sure. Could be my child or his. The time frames matched for both options. I left the kitchen. I needed to think, but thoughts wouldn't form into anything coherent. I went to the beach, where I worked, where I had saved dozens of lives. Ironically, I could save strangers but couldn't save my own marriage. The next morning I told Pamela we needed a break. Not a divorce, not yet. Just time to think. She agreed, still in tears. I moved in with Marcus for a week. During that week, I made the hardest decision of my life. I couldn't continue. Even if the child turned out to be mine. Even if Pamela broke up with Tom. Something in us had broken irreparably, and I couldn't just pretend everything was fine for the kids' sake. But I also didn't want to do it the traditional way. Didn't want scandals, court battles, property division with lawyers. I had a different idea. I came back home and offered Pamela a deal. We would arrange an experiment. I would give her 3 months to live with Tom, see if this was really what she wanted. The kids would stay with me. If after 3 months she still wanted to be with him, we would divorce quietly without dirt. If not, we would try again. Pamela was stunned. Are you serious? Completely. What about the kids? We'll tell them that mommy needs time for herself. That she's working on a personal project. 3 months isn't forever. She agreed. I don't know what I expected. Maybe that she would refuse, say she wanted to stay with me. But she agreed. Tom, as it turned out, was not thrilled with this idea. Marcus learned through his channels that he started panicking when Pamela told him about the pregnancy and my proposal. He hadn't signed up for a ready-made family. He wanted romance, passion, mystery, not diapers and baby formula. But Pamela insisted. She moved in with him. The first month was hard. The kids constantly asked about mom. I told them the truth, that mom was living separately now, but she loved them very much. They didn't understand. How can someone who loves you leave? Pamela came every weekend. At first, the visits were long, all day. Then they became shorter. After 6 weeks, she was coming for an hour or two. I saw how something was changing in her. Romance collided with reality. Tom turned out not to be so perfect when you had to live with him every day. His relaxedness, which seemed attractive, turned into irresponsibility. His apartment was small, cluttered. He worked irregularly and money became a problem. And then there was the child. Pamela had an ultrasound at 8 weeks. I didn't ask about the results, but I saw the answer in her eyes. She knew the child wasn't mine. In the 3rd month, something broke completely. Pamela came to me on Saturday morning. The kids were at my parents'. I made a mistake, she said immediately. A huge mistake. Edward, please give me another chance. I sat on the couch and looked at her. Months ago, these words would have made me the happiest person. Now I felt only emptiness. Is it over with Tom? I asked. Yes. I left him yesterday. And the child? She touched her belly. I don't know what to do. And here I understood something important. This experiment wasn't just for her. It was for me too. 3 months alone with the kids, 3 months when I was building a new life, 3 months when I learned to be happy on my own. I realized I didn't need Pamela to be complete. I could be a good father, could build a happy life, alone. Pamela, I said calmly. I can't. I really can't. She started crying. Not like months ago, not from despair but from understanding. She knew this was the end. What will I do now? She whispered. Life. Raise your child. Look for real happiness, not in dating apps. The divorce was finalized in 2 months. No scandals, no courts. Pamela got part of our savings, I got the apartment and custody of the kids. She could see them whenever she wanted, but lived separately. Tom never came back. Hearing that Pamela was really pregnant with his child, he quit his job and moved to another state. Never took responsibility. Pamela gave birth to a daughter in February. Named her Olivia. The kids have another sister and I don't forbid them from seeing each other. It's not their fault. The most amazing thing was what happened a month after Olivia's birth. Pamela came to me in the evening when the kids were asleep. "I want you to know," she said. "I understand now what I lost. Not because of Olivia, not because it's hard alone. I lost a partner. A real partner who was there for 9 years. Who loved me not for passion or novelty but just loved." I nodded. There was no need to answer anything. "Tom wrote to me," she continued. "He wants to meet Olivia. Said he's ready to try being a father." "And what did you tell him?" She smiled sadly. "That he can come. Olivia deserves to know her father, even if he's not perfect." I was surprised. Surprised by how mature she had become in these months. "Edward," she said, standing up. "Thank you." "For what?" "For giving me time to understand. Most men would have just divorced immediately. You gave me the opportunity to see the truth." After she left, I sat in the darkness for a long time. Our life fell apart and came together in a new form. Not better, not worse, just different. 6 months have passed since the divorce. The kids are getting used to the new reality. Liam sometimes asks why mom and dad don't live together like his friends' parents. I tell him the truth, that sometimes adults can no longer be together, but that doesn't mean they stop loving their children. Pamela is seeing Tom again. It turned out that seeing his daughter changed something in him. He got a stable job, found a better apartment. Will this last? I don't know. This is no longer my story. My story is early mornings, breakfast with the kids, work at the beach where I save lives. Evenings with books, weekends in the park. A simple, calm, honest story. Sometimes, standing on the lifeguard tower and looking at the ocean, I think about how close we all are to the edge. One decision, one swipe in an app, one yes instead of no, and the whole life goes a different path. Pamela made her choice. Tom made his. I made mine. And I don't regret it. But here's what I didn't tell anyone yet. About a month after the divorce was finalized, I was doing a routine check of our old joint bank account statements, the one we had closed during the settlement. I noticed something odd, a series of small transactions to a company I didn't recognize. The amounts were insignificant, $20 to $50 each, but they were regular. Every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 months before I discovered the affair. Curiosity got the better of me and I did some digging. The company turned out to be a subscription service, but not for meditation apps or spa treatments like I thought. It was a service that provided private mailbox rentals. Virtual addresses where people could receive mail without using their home address. Why would Pamela need that? I called Marcus again. By this point, I didn't even feel angry anymore. Just a strange, detached curiosity about how deep the deception went. Marcus made some calls, used some of his contacts from his security days. What he found was unexpected. The mailbox was registered under Pamela's maiden name, and it had been receiving packages, lots of them. Beauty products, yes, but also something else. Books. Specifically, books about polyamory, open relationships, and something called ethical non-monogamy. I sat with this information for days. The picture it painted was different from what I had imagined. Pamela hadn't just fallen into an affair impulsively. She had been researching, planning, maybe even hoping to eventually convince me to accept an open relationship. The new lingerie, the self-care routines, the tenderness toward me, it was all part of something bigger. She was trying to become someone who could live 2 lives at once. When I confronted her about it, this was about 2 weeks after she had asked for another chance, she broke down differently than before. This wasn't the crying of someone caught in a lie. This was the crying of someone whose entire constructed reality had collapsed. "I thought I could have both," she admitted. "I thought if I became better, more attractive, more interesting, maybe you would understand. Maybe you would see that loving 2 people doesn't mean loving either of them less." I wasn't angry. I was actually sad for her. "But you never gave me that choice," I said quietly. "You made the decision for both of us. You lied instead of having a difficult conversation." She nodded, unable to meet my eyes. "I was afraid. Afraid you'd leave if I was honest about what I wanted. So you waited until I found out in the worst way possible?" The conversation lasted hours. We talked about things we had never discussed in 9 years of marriage. Desires, fears, the growing sense of restlessness she felt as she approached 35, the fear of having lived only one kind of life. I listened, really listened, maybe for the first time in our relationship. And I understood that our marriage had been dying long before Tom appeared. Tom was just the symptom, not the disease. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click like if you enjoy this story. I always read your comments and analyze which stories you like best so that I can create better stories. Thank you, I will continue the story. But understanding didn't mean forgiving, and it certainly didn't mean reconciling. If anything, it made me more certain that we needed to be apart. We wanted fundamentally different things from life now, and no amount of couples therapy or fresh starts would bridge that gap. The experiment had worked exactly as intended. It had shown us both the truth we needed to see. After Pamela left that night, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went to the beach at sunset, not in my lifeguard gear but just as Edward, just as myself. I sat on the sand and watched the waves roll in, thinking about the strange path my life had taken. In lifeguard training they teach you about rip currents, how they pull you out to sea, how fighting against them only exhausts you, how the secret is to swim parallel to the shore until you're out of the current's grip, then make your way back to land. That's what this felt like. I had stopped fighting the current of my failing marriage. I had let it take me out, stayed calm, and now I was finally swimming back to shore. Different shore, different life, but solid ground nonetheless. I thought about Liam and Sophie, about the life I was building for them. I thought about the strange mercy I had shown Pamela with the experiment, and how it had actually been a mercy to myself too. It had given me proof that I wasn't giving up too easily, that I had really tried everything possible. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Sarah, another parent from Liam's kindergarten. We had been talking more lately. She was divorced too, understood the juggling act of single parenting. She was asking if I wanted to bring the kids to the park tomorrow. Her daughter was Liam's age. I smiled and texted back yes. This was my life now. Simple decisions, honest interactions, no hidden mailboxes or secret apps. Just the slow, steady work of building something real. The irony wasn't lost on me that Pamela had written, looking for something real, in her Tinder profile while living a life of careful deception. Real wasn't something you found, it was something you built, brick by brick, choice by choice, with honesty as your foundation. I had learned that the hard way, but I had learned it. Over the next few months I settled into a rhythm. The kids adjusted better than I expected. Children are remarkably resilient when the adults in their lives are stable and honest with them. Liam stopped asking when mommy was coming home and started asking instead when they would see her next. The shift in language was small but significant. He was accepting the new reality. Pamela's visits became more consistent after our final honest conversation. Every other weekend, predictable and reliable. She seemed lighter somehow, as if dropping the pretense of wanting to reconcile had freed her too. Tom had indeed come back into her life and I could see he was trying. He showed up to one of the handoffs, introduced himself properly, looked me in the eye. I didn't like him, probably never would, but I could respect that he was making an effort. Olivia was 6 months old now. The kids were fascinated by their baby sister. Sophie especially loved holding her, being gentle with her tiny fingers. I took photos of them together and sent them to Pamela. This too was part of the new reality. We were no longer spouses, barely even friends, but we were co-parents to Liam and Sophie, and we were doing it without poison or hatred. One Saturday afternoon, Marcus came over while the kids were with Pamela. We sat on my small balcony, drinking beer and watching the distant ocean. You know, he said, when you first called me to follow her, I thought you were going to do something crazy when you found out. Like what? I don't know. Confront the guy. Make a scene. Something explosive. I shook my head. I thought about it. Believe me, I had fantasies about confronting Tom, making him feel what I felt. But what would it accomplish? Marcus was quiet for a moment. The experiment thing though, that was genius. I've never seen anything like it. It wasn't genius, I said. It was survival. I needed to know that I had tried everything, that I wasn't running away too soon. And I needed her to see reality without me being the one to show it to her. If I had just kicked her out, refused to take her back, I would have always been the bad guy in her mind. This way she made her own choice, saw the consequences and had to live with them. Still, Marcus said, most guys would have just lawyered up and gone for blood. I thought about that. Maybe I would have too if I hadn't had those 3 months with just me and the kids. That time taught me something important. I was going to be okay. Better than okay. Once I knew that, I didn't need revenge. I just needed out. Sarah and I grew closer. It wasn't romantic, neither of us was ready for that, but it was a friendship built on mutual understanding. We helped each other with childcare, talked through the difficulties of single parenting, laughed about the absurdities of dating apps that neither of us had the energy to join. She had been betrayed too, though her ex-husband's affair had been messier, involving his secretary in a cliché that would be funny if it hadn't destroyed her trust so completely. Do you think you'll ever try again? She asked me one evening. We were watching our kids play at the park, the sun setting in shades of orange and purple. Marriage? I shrugged. Maybe. Someday. But not for a long time. Right now, I'm relearning who I am outside of being someone's husband. I like that guy. He's not perfect, but he's honest. Sarah nodded. I get that. It's like you have to become a person again before you can be part of a couple again. Exactly. We sat in comfortable silence, watching Liam push Sophie on the swings while Sarah's daughter built sandcastles nearby. This was enough. This moment, this peace, this simple truth of being present in your own life. It was enough. A year passed. Then another. Life continued in its quiet way. I got a promotion at work, head lifeguard, which came with more responsibility but also a better salary. The kids thrived. Liam started first grade and discovered he loved reading. Sophie began dance classes and showed a natural talent for it. I attended every recital, every parent-teacher conference, every doctor's appointment. I was present in a way I hadn't been when I was married, when I took for granted that Pamela would handle the details of their lives. Pamela and Tom got married. I heard about it from the kids, who were excited to have been flower girl and ring bearer at the ceremony. I sent a polite congratulations text. I meant it too. I wanted her to be happy, wanted her to have found what she was looking for, even if it had come at a terrible cost to what we once had. Olivia was walking now, talking in half sentences. She called Tom Dada, and didn't know any different. That was probably for the best. On what would have been our 12th wedding anniversary, I took the kids to the beach. We built sandcastles, looked for shells, swam in the gentle waves. Liam asked me why I seemed happy. The question caught me off guard. Because I am happy, I told him. Why? Because I have you and Sophie. Because the sun is shining. Because we're having a good day. But don't you miss being married? He was 8 now, old enough to ask real questions. I thought carefully about my answer. I miss some parts of it. I miss having a partner to share things with. But the marriage I had wasn't making me happy anymore, buddy. And sometimes adults have to make hard choices so that everyone can be happier in the long run. Are we happier? I looked at him, at Sophie building a drip castle nearby, at the life we had built from the rubble of my failed marriage. I think so. Are you? He considered it seriously. Yeah. Things are more calm now. Out of the mouths of babes. Things were more calm now. He was right. The last year of my marriage had been filled with tension I hadn't even recognized at the time, Pamela's growing restlessness, my own sense that something was wrong but not knowing what. The divorce had been painful, but it had released that tension. Now we lived in truth, uncomfortable as it sometimes was. I thought about the man I had been when I first found out about Pamela's affair. That man had been devastated, enraged, lost. He had wanted revenge, had wanted her to hurt the way he hurt. But that man had been transformed by the process of letting go. The experiment hadn't just been about giving Pamela a chance to choose, it had been about giving myself a chance to become someone who didn't need her to be whole. Standing on the beach that day watching my children play, I realized something profound. Pamela's betrayal had been the catalyst for the biggest growth of my life. It had forced me to confront questions I had been avoiding. Was I happy? Was I living authentically? Was I teaching my children by example how to build a good life? The answer to all of those questions during my marriage had been no. Now the answer was yes. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat on my balcony with a cup of coffee and watched the stars. I thought about all the nights I had sat here after first learning about Tom, full of pain and confusion. I thought about the nights during the experiment, wondering if I was making a terrible mistake. I thought about the nights after the divorce, learning to be alone without being lonely. And now I was just here. Present. At peace. My phone rang. It was Marcus. Hey man, some of us are getting together tomorrow night. Poker game at Steve's. You in? I smiled. Yeah, I'm in. Let me see if Sarah can watch the kids. Sarah, huh? I could hear the grin in his voice. It's not like that. Sure it's not. It's really not. We're friends. That's how it starts, Marcus said. With my ex, I'm in no rush. Fair enough. So you'll come? I'll come. After we hung up, I thought about what Marcus had said. Was there something between Sarah and me? Maybe the potential for something, someday. But I wasn't worried about it. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't trying to force anything, wasn't trying to make anything happen. I was just living day by day, building a good life for my kids and for myself. The experiment had taught me many things, but perhaps the most important was this. You cannot control other people's choices, but you can control your own response to those choices. Pamela had chosen Tom, had chosen deception, had chosen to risk everything we had built. Those were her choices. My choice had been to respond with as much grace and dignity as I could muster, to give her the rope to either climb back or hang herself with, and to use the time to build something better for myself and my children. I didn't regret the experiment. I didn't regret the divorce. I didn't even regret the marriage, painful as its end had been. All of it had led me here, to this balcony, this night, this peace. And that was worth everything I had lost along the way. Thank you for continuing to watch this YouTube channel. You are the ones who influence what stories will be on this channel in the future, but when there is no activity, I have to guess whether you like the story or not. Remember, it is thanks to your comments, likes, and subscriptions that this channel can grow and improve. Very soon, I will add some improvements and continue the story.